Hello, and thanks for coming along to And We Have an Office Dog, the digital agency podcast where we talk to agency owner-directors and learn more about what makes them tick. From the things that make them similar to the things they'd rather have known sooner, where they've had success and where they've learned some hard lessons. All will be revealed with your host, Chris Simmons, the agency coach, and he'll be talking to a different awesome agency person in each episode, asking them 4 questions and seeing where the conversation takes us over the next 25 minutes. Okay, so let us begin. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, voiceover guy. And on the podcast today, we've got Rob, the CEO of Social Republic. Hi, Rob.
Hi.
How you doing? All right?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me on. One of those kind of long-time listeners, first-time callers, or guests kind of situations. So it's nice to be on. So thank you.
Thank you. I mean, flattery goes a long way, Rob. This will get an extra couple of tweets, I'm sure now. It's a lovely sunny day and both of us are smiling. So I think this will be a nice, smiley, friendly podcast. So first of all, Social Republic. Give us a plug. What do you do apart from maybe being a little bit obvious? Tell us what you do. Superpowers. What makes you special?
Yeah. So in a world where there's lots of social media agencies, and a lot of them saying they kind of do things differently, we were very much born into this innovation. My journey goes back to 2006, the birth of Facebook, and being one of the first Britons to have access to Facebook while I studied at university over there, which was a bit of a badge of honor back then. Now, not so much with fake news and cat videos and God knows what else is on Facebook. But we're an incredible social media agency, specifically working with non-profit organizations like the NHS, the Red Cross, and luxury brands as well. So like Neville Johnson, Constance Hotels and Resorts. I've just been to recently, which was very nice. We very much specialize in a non-profit. It's something we've kind of fallen into, which we're very happy with. Being able to support charities that are making a difference.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that goes a long way with especially social. It goes a long way as running an agency, kind of keeps people motivated if you feel like you're part of something bigger than just the agency, and you can do some really good things because lots of non-profits they struggle with finding their own staff that helps to get things done. So if I was I know what the job market's like in digital right now. So if I was a potential member of staff, what would be the key draw for coming to work with you?
I think the staff that we have, they are part of a journey. We recruit very, very slowly. I know this isn't the sexiest thing in the world, especially in the agency world, where you've got to be hiring 1,000 people at once and you've got to be a unicorn and growing really fast. And I'm old, so now I have the benefit of hindsight. I've been doing this for 7 years. I've seen businesses kind of come and go, and the ones that hire and fire very, very, very quickly kind of don't make it. And that's not what we want to be. We want to have people on this journey. So our staff have been with us for a long time, kind of, which is refreshing in an industry where turnover is quite quick, it's quite high. Things like supporting charities, so having days off for charities, all the things I kind of felt were benefits when I was in a job. So, lots of time off at Christmas and just kind of making the organization work for employees as well. Not saying that we have 3-day weeks or anything like that, but just being respectful of people's flexibility. And I think COVID especially has had a positive impact in terms of we don't all have to work from the office. We can work from home. Obviously, we've got an office dog. That's a bit of a no-brainer. Things like just asking people what they want. And one size never fits all, but generally you have most people will say, actually, yeah, that's a good idea. So things like prep subscriptions, other coffee shops are available, gym subscriptions, that sort of thing. Those are the 2 things that came out. People wanted the gym and then coffee, kind of the 2.
Yeah, we had in the past the team. I kind of did this thing where I thought, you know what, I'm not going to do standard benefits kind of thing. It's a kind of, here's a budget, what do you want? And someone was like, well, I'll have an annual Netflix subscription. Someone else was like, I'll have a discounted gym membership or whatever it might be. And it just has to fit what people want and what people need. So over the last 7 years, I'm sure there have been lots and lots of successes in the agency, but what do you think has been one of the sort of the standout successes that you've had?
Kind of after, I always think about this, and I'm getting better at celebrating small wins or even just like little things. I think that's really, really important, because no matter what business you're in, if you're growing a business, whether it's an agency or not, things happen very, very quickly. And you might win a client, for example, and then you think, right, when's the next one, sort of thing. And I've really become more aware of taking time to actually, celebrate that win. You know, go out with staff and enjoy that time, and obviously celebrate their hard work as well. I think just getting to this point, I don't know what the statistic is. It changes all the time in terms of the number of businesses that fail within like the first few years. And obviously we're in America now, we'll be celebrating the failure and all that sort of stuff. And we're a bit more grounded over here in the UK. But in terms of, you know, we don't want to fail as much. But yeah, I think just getting to the stage and doing it in a way that has been nice and steady, which again, you know, isn't the sexiest thing to say, but I'm very honest about it. And I think is the reason that as an agency, we are still here, and we have great staff and, you know, great clients who stay with us. So kind of that longevity, I think is I think probably my success.
I think longevity is a success. I think there's different levels of what you would say is a success or as a failure for an agency. You know, if you go from 0 staff to 10 staff down to 1 staff, and you do it for 30 years, and you end the agency in your 60s, and you've got 1 member of staff and it's the dog, it's still a success, if that's what you call success. If you get to 100 staff and you close the agency for a massive sale, that's success. Quite a lot of the fail rates of businesses, they have to look at, you know, like within 5 years or within 10 years and that sort of stuff. They often forget that most businesses, like 87% of businesses across the UK, don't necessarily fail. They just close because people run out of steam, or they just don't want to do it anymore, and that's technically classed as a failure because your business is closed. That's it. But that's like 2/3 of the UK economy is small businesses, so most businesses don't last, and longevity is therefore a successful business.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I do exit eventually from the company, I want people to be able to be proud that they've worked for us, and even if we're, you know, for example, just a little small kind of stepping stone in their career, at least they look back with, you know, kind of fondness, and they think, you know, I had a great time there and I learned a lot. Those are the sort of things that I remember from, you know, previous positions. It makes me laugh, you know, when your parents say to you, I was young once, but when you're like a teenager, you don't imagine them as like 20 years old, you know, you just don't see it. I think it's the same with staff now as they're getting a bit older. I think they don't realize that I was 20 years old and stupid. Like, not saying they are, like I was a bit of an idiot, but
we all were in our own way, I think. So I mean, that brings me on nicely, I think, to this thought, is that if it was possible, and you were to go back in time 7 years and give the younger, more potentially sprightly version of yourself some advice, what one piece of advice would you give yourself?
Yeah, it's funny. I was watching Back to the Future the other night. It just reminds me of that. You gotta go back. You gotta go back. I probably wouldn't listen for a start because I was naive and a bit silly. But I think it would be to not take things personally. You really can't. And it's very easily done. But I also think it's quite easily overcome as well. Like, if people leave the business, if a client moves on, it's not about you personally. It's just people have their own ideas and their own kind of tram lines, as it were. And not to take things to heart. A lot of things.
It's hard, isn't it? Because you've got it is your business, and therefore it's yours, it's you. but when you separate that from a professional and a personal version of you, it's a little bit easier. I used to remember like leaving the office on a, say, Friday afternoon and thinking about all of these things personally affecting me all weekend, then coming into Monday and probably being a horrible person to be around because I've spent the entire weekend having like arguments and discussions in my head about things. And as soon as you can kind of learn that it's not all about you, and actually getting out of your own way sometimes is like a superpower to letting other people flourish. I don't know about you, but the first person that I ever hired, eventually when they moved on to another job, I was both proud because they went into something much bigger and better, but I was also quite devastated. I thought, what have I done wrong? Or what have I done wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah, when the initial kind of staff that you hire move on, it is, yeah, they are almost like part of your family sort of thing. I always tell people not to imagine our agency as a family because nobody likes the family.
No, you're thinking of dysfunction when you think of family most of the time. It's like, can you imagine sitting around? I can imagine sitting around a dinner table having a lovely Christmas meal with my team, and not so much with my family potentially.
Yeah, that would be a really good Christmas dinner actually with your team. Yeah, it's nice to think as close friends. I see a lot of agencies talk about being a family. I think families don't get on. You can't choose your family.
Exactly. There's the old saying. I don't know if you've heard this. It's usually quite a lot of mums say, "Blood's thicker than water."
Yeah.
The actual turn of phrase is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, which basically says the people I choose to be around are stronger relationships than the ones I have no choice about.
Exactly.
And it's a bit uniform, isn't it, saying we're a family as a team, because it's the same as saying we've got an office dog. It's the same as saying that we're an extension of your team and all those sorts of things. They're just meaningless words, because realistically, would you tell a family member, would you delegate tasks to a family member, then pay them later for it?
I tried. You try.
It doesn't work, does it?
Doesn't go down very well. Bribery now with young nieces, doesn't work. Give them a few more views on TikTok and they'll be very happy. But it's an interesting point.
So you say you wouldn't have listened to the advice had you gone back in time. I think that's fairly standard amongst the brain type of an agency owner. Is there something that you kind of regret doing or did that didn't work out so well, that's actually something you've now embedded in that has set you up for the current successes that you have?
Yes. So I think initially, I think I don't regret anything actually. I think I don't know what the saying is, you should regret doing something rather than regret never doing something, apart from murder, obviously. But something illegal might not work. But I regret not starting sooner. But that's, I guess, hindsight is an incredible thing. It's easy to say that. It's easy to say I wish I'd started sooner. I do, but at that time, so I started the agency 2015. I started my career in 2008. Back then, if you're a 20-year-old entrepreneur, it would have been very, very difficult to get work, especially in an industry that was still evolving. People were still quite wary of Twitter and Facebook. Talking of a time where Instagram didn't really exist. There's no WhatsApp, that sort of thing. So now you see a lot of 18, 19, 20-year-old entrepreneurs, which is amazing. And they grow businesses very, very quickly. I feel like even if I had started earlier, I wouldn't have potentially have been as successful. Just because of the timing. But then having that time working in-house and then going and working for agencies gave me kind of contacts and experience. And I think sometimes it is who you know, not what you know. So when it came to me quitting my job on the Friday and thinking about it over the weekend, and then on the Monday realizing I've got the rent to pay at the end of the month, I don't have a job, I don't have any clients, I don't have an agency. I then basically rang around everybody that I knew, and I started with a list. So I started with people I didn't know very well at the top and people I knew really well at the bottom, including family, and just thought, well, I'm in trouble if I kind of get down to the bottom of this list by the end of the day. So just rang around and said, I'm kind of consultancy, agency, freelance, whatever you might call it. Do you need any assistance with your social media marketing? And it took all day, and there's a lot of no's, and it's when you get to that point where you've had so many no's, you kind of become desensitized to it all, and then you get to your friends that you know really well who've got their own businesses, and you think, I've kind of got to throw pride and ego and anything else I've got left out the window, because I'm not going to be able to pay that rent at the end of the month. And I got quite lucky. I had my very first boss, who is actually still a client to this day, which is amazing.
That's lovely.
She runs an amazing charity called Melanoma UK, it's a skin cancer charity. She gave me a break, and then a friend who had a FMCG business, he also gave me a shot. So that's kind of how it started, and I'll never kind of forget those people. So yeah, it's an interesting time.
Let's just take a moment to have a shout out to the dog, who's also going to be part of the podcast. Again, this is a beautiful thing.
Can I go and get him?
Yeah, go get him.
Yeah, I'll go and get him.
I think one of the key things with sort of that early doors of running an agency is that it's almost entirely built on network and referrals and things like that. And then once you've got those coming in, you've got some cash flow to then start doing some marketing and sales for yourself. But to start off at the top of that list and work your way down with successive no's is quite, it can be quite hard, can't it? And knowing you've got to do it is not to sound all pretentious, but I think it's a Winston Churchill quote, something like success is walking from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. And essentially going through that list of nope. If you got to the bottom and you were still sort of, I'm excited, I'm doing this all for myself, and do you want to come and work with me, kind of thing. That's why it's why you, if you started that relationship with the first person that you mentioned, and you're still working with her now, then the enthusiasm on day zero is the same that you carry now with the team. That keeps people, retains people.
Absolutely, and those referrals are very much the lifeblood of a small business, a growing, a business that has just started. They're not technically sustainable because they can dry up at any point. And they always say it's the 3 F's, isn't it? Friends, family, or fools, looking for investment and that sort of thing. But they really do help. Go to the people that you know really well, that they might not understand your business, but they're passionate about it, and they'll share it for you.
Yeah. There's great power in using the time and the opportunity that you've got with oh, you're letting the dog out as well.
Sorry.
It's okay, we won't edit any of this for the listeners. I'm too lazy for that, and you guys who are listening right now, you can either enjoy it or not, and therefore you probably aren't a dog lover. So yeah, it just kind of, that referral based start of an agency is quite tough, because you don't want to burn relationships you've already got, but at the same time you really do, like you say, need to pay the rent and things like that. As soon as you start bringing on stuff, you can start spending time being the sales machine of the business and start bringing in actual sales that are not based on referrals and things like that so much. So if I'm a brand new agency owner, I've just started running an agency, or I'm literally listening to this podcast waiting for Rob, the CEO of Social Republic, to give one piece of advice that I'm going to write down and live by, what would that one piece of advice that you'd give someone be, assuming that they've asked you for it, so they're ready to listen?
Not that I just give it to them.
Yeah, just random people on the street. No, that doesn't work. That doesn't usually go so well.
I would say definitely go down the path that you want. Don't let other agencies sway you, because there is a lot of bullshit that you will see on LinkedIn, for example. You'll see the way that agency owners will portray their business. Yet if you actually talk to the staff, it's all for PR, it's all for LinkedIn, it's all for content. It isn't actually the way that a business is run, and you'll find that out very quickly. So do what you want to do. So we are different to other agencies in that we rely, or we utilize the expertise of a freelance network, and it's always the way I've wanted to grow Social Republic. I mean, I was so stubborn at the beginning. I didn't even want to have social in the name, because I thought every agency calling them digital that, social this. So I'm not doing it. But then when we actually spoke to a branding expert, they were like, "No, you probably should." So we did. but yeah, we've always utilized the experience of freelancers. One of the issues I found when I worked for agencies was that as a client, you'd only get the expertise that was within those four walls. So let's say, I don't know, you're a sports company, and you go to an agency and they don't have anyone internally who is an expert within sports. So it's just kind of passed to whoever is the closest, might enjoy football or whatever. Whereas we always want to build teams around the client. So where we need expertise, if it's an industry the team internally don't have expertise in, we'll always bring somebody in as an expert. And also it not only creates jobs, but it builds relationships. So our network, our team now is just over 500 globally. So, UK, US, Australia, Europe.
That's some pretty hefty project management skills you guys must have to deploy there. It's like herding cats when you got people across the planet.
Yeah, especially in Australia as well. That's always fun. Funnily enough, I always wanted, having a previous kind of relationship with the US and living there and going to university there. I always had this vision of the company becoming quite dominant in the US, and now we've actually we have more clients in the US than we do in the UK, and we're a UK company, which is great, but it wasn't meant to happen this soon. But it's still, kind of wonderful. So, do what you want to do. If you want to grow an agency to 100, I saw someone post like yesterday, and this girl said, I've got 10 people working for me now. I want to have 100 staff. If that's what you want to do, go and do it. Personally, I don't see the draw. It might be for investment. It might just be kind of to exit quite quickly if you grow something really fast. If you want to build, a company that is small and reliable and more ethical like ours, then do it. Don't let others kind of sway you, and try not to believe that famous Einstein quote, don't believe everything you see on the internet.
yes. I think I've seen something along the same lines with all sorts of other faces and things like that. So being true to what you want to do is essential, I think, because you've got to build the right purpose to have an agency. And sure, you've got the purpose that you personally have, but you've got to have this collective goal sort of style purpose, and the mission then has to be followed from that. If your purpose in running an agency is solely to have 100 staff, and you really, really mean that, then you might need some coaching. you might need someone to help sort of slip that away to work out really what it is that actually you want, because it's really tough hiring people, firing people, keeping accountabilities, keeping processes running smoothly. And every time you get by another 15, 20, 30, 40 staff, it gets massive. So the last thing you want to do is kind of cause yourself harm by having some sort of massive idealized thing. Someone says, I want to be £1 million a year agency. That sounds great, but do you know how much hard work goes into that? Why not be a £200,000 a year agency, but with a 50% profit margin?
Absolutely.
Think what you want and then follow it through, and don't be sort of sidetracked by what you see. Like, on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, all those sorts of things. Most people post pictures of them, for example, on Facebook or Instagram, of them at the beach having a great time. If you see that, you think, oh, I wish I was there. That's not fair. And then you think, hang on a minute, this is the first time they put a picture of themselves on the beach for 5 years. If you start thinking rationally, you don't really want 100 staff unless there's a good reason for it.
I think there should be some kind of, not test or exam, but just an example of, if you are like a young startup owner, agency owner, get 100 people to stand in a room with 100 people, and then have them all talk about what they want all at once. And just everyone's going to want different things. You give, you offer apples and oranges, and then someone will say, well, I want a pineapple, and then you'll realize what 100 people actually is like dealing with. Hopefully you'll have staff to do all that. But there is a great book called, and I'm going to plug it, called Built to Sell.
That's a great book.
I don't read a lot. I'm not one of these people. I'm not one of these agency owners who reads 50 books a day and all that sort of stuff. I prefer to listen to a podcast like this one, or Well, watch the
Absolutely.
film. Well, Built to Sell is amazing because there's one point in that book where he says, I think they're like a design agency and they're doing lots of different things for different clients and they're letting the clients kind of pull them in any direction. And this expert guru, whatever you might call them, comes in and says, you do one thing really well, which is designing logos. Just do that. And the reason he doesn't want to do it is because it means he has to drop revenue from other areas where they've been designing websites or brochures. And this guy says, I won't ruin it for anyone, but he says, just do logos, just specialize in logos because that's what you're really good at. You can make a lot of profit and you'll have a better team. You can build an agency that you can sell. And I think doing that is very, very difficult at the beginning because you think, I've got to bring in revenue. But it does work long term because then you're seen as that agency, for example, that specializes in working with non-profits. And word does get out. If you stick to your guns, it does work. It is difficult at the beginning because you are needing to bring in revenue, needing to make profit.
Absolutely. And the dog agrees.
Now he wants to come back in.
I mean, that it is really good advice, and hopefully anyone who's listening either recognizes that as something that they followed themselves or that they feel like they should follow, because I think there's something really important with that in terms of like kind of sticking to your guns is key. You have if you follow everyone else in the room, whether it be as an agency owner or someone aspiring to start an agency, if you do that, then you'll end up being like all of the rest, because all these agencies that have the same website, the same this, the same that, and the same language and the same services, they're like that because everything has eventually kind of distilled into the big river of all of the agencies. You want to be something that you want to be, so stick to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100% agree. When we pitch, people ask us, do you do SEO? We just say no, because that's not what we're not good at SEO, so we don't do it. So if you want to work with an SEO agency, go to an SEO agency. And if you want somebody that does everything, great, but it might be diluted in terms of what you're actually going to get out of it. They might be really strong at SEO, but quite poor at social. They might have one person stuck in the corner of the room doing all the tweets.
And it causes all sorts of friction. You lose clients that way. But that was, fantastic advice to end the podcast on. So thanks very much for coming along, Rob.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm going to plug our new platform, if that's okay.
Do it.
So Vulse, VULSE. If you're looking to create amazing LinkedIn content, if you're looking to schedule content, whether you work for an agency or you've got your own business, it's free. You can sign up today. It's vulse.co. Let me know what you think. Please be honest. We are looking for investment as well, so we're looking to raise at the moment. But we've got some very, very exciting AI technology created by Manchester Metropolitan University.
Wow.
So it's basically going to save people a lot of time creating social content, starting with LinkedIn. So if you're struggling for either creativity or time, or you don't want to pay for a platform, then come and use Vulse.
Oh, I'm definitely going to have a look at it, and that's not just part of the plug. I didn't even know it existed, and I struggle sometimes to think that, it's not just a case of I have to post. It's a case of what do people want to hear?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for that. And naturally, you should, if you're listening to this and you use the hell on earth that is LinkedIn for your marketing, then give it a try as well. So thanks for listening. And in the next podcast, we'll have a different agency leader to talk about their journey and things they've learned along the way. So thanks very much.